and welcome to another episode of Hybrid Healing Hour. Today we have another special guest that we're very happy to have on our show. We have David Barreto. David, we've known for several years now, and we've actually worked with him in the health coaching space. He and his company have coached several of our patients, and we've had mutual patients in the past, but we've also known David through his personal healthcare journey. David is someone who's gone from being, you'd say, obese,
very
out of shape, almost a diabetic, in fact, very close to being a diabetic, to now in great shape and competing, doing bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. And so we're curious, just like I'm sure some of you are curious, how did you do that? And what led you to this? And tell us about your story.
For me, I've had kind of a similar story to a lot of people who are struggling with weight. It's not that I didn't want to lose weight. I always gave it a shot and tend to fail. You pick up some momentum and then it goes back. And that was kind of the struggle all through high school. When I graduated, I was about 315 pounds. And that was close to one of my heaviest, but I was working a very long job with high school. Didn't care about my diet. Gym was kind of only in school, and my sleep was horrible. That was probably one of the biggest things. But the eye-opening part was I moved to Miami to work at one of the clinics with my stepdad, who's one of my business partners in the company. And we got my blood work done, and I was shocked how unhealthy I was coming straight out of high school.
And we're seeing that a lot. And something I should add, because I know many of you are thinking this right now, you're thinking that David is one of our success stories with semaglutide or tirzepatide, and he's not. No. He did this without using any of the weight loss medications, right? In fact, he started this journey before any of those were available. So that's even more amazing, and that's why we want people to know this. You can do this.
Yeah, 100%. We've always said that medicine is such a great tool, but having the foundation first is always going to be key. And being able to even go halfway through this process with no aids to medication or anything like that, was huge, because now being able to kind of explain that journey and that story to people where they think it's only one option, or I need to take this or I need to do that. And it's completely possible. It just takes time. And I think that's one of the issues that I had in the beginning is I want it to be quick. I want it to be fast.
I think everybody wants a quick weight loss story, right?
100%. And anytime it did come quick, it came back faster.
Exactly.
Every single time.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think that's what a lot of our patients are, they come in and they're like, I'm like, yay, we do monthly follow-ups, right? And we do the in-body analysis as well. So we are always checking to make sure they have muscle mass and losing fat, and not just losing fat and becoming more sarcopenic, right? Or weak, course. Right? And losing muscle mass. So, when I get excited when somebody loses 1%, 2% body fat in a month. And that could even be just a matter of like a few pounds. I try to aim for a small goal of like even 1 pound a week is to me is a success. And they're like, but that's not fast enough. Can you explain through your journey how you know that is a very appropriate goal?
Yeah, I kind of, it was interesting because the first time I actually set the goal, when I lost the first kind of 60, 65 pounds, right before meeting you guys, actually, I just wanted to hit a number. That was all I cared about. It was like, if I get to that number, then I kind of be normal and all this stuff. And that was the mindset that I realized sabotaged me every time, is because once I hit it, it was game over. The diet, everything completely changed, and I started to creep back up. And I kept telling myself, I did it once, I could do it again. And that was like the nail in the coffin for me, because once you do kind of figure it out, you're like, oh, well, if I ever fell off, then I can go right back. And that was one of the big issues that I had, because I would see 1 pound, 2 pound, or when the scale goes up, what am I doing wrong? So you start crash dieting, you start beating yourself up. And I think now even more is when you get on social media and stuff and you see, 30 pounds in a month and this, and, he weighs the same as much as me, but I look completely different. That comparison part really kind of distorted the way that I thought my progress was supposed to be. So when I lost a pound, I was like, it's just a pound. I'm working so hard. But Now, like going back at some of the pictures that I've had, and I realized like, oh, this was only 20 pounds apart from when I started. It's a huge difference, you know, but being able to get to a further point to reflect back is where you're going to notice that 1 pound every week for a year is a massive amount lost. And the habits and the routines that you built over that time period is the reason why you're going to keep it.
Absolutely. And how often did you weigh yourself?
Every day in the morning and every day at night.
Do you still do that?
If I'm doing it for a goal, so for competition purposes, yes. You know, I definitely, the weight is just another metric that you would want to use, especially I have a weight cap. So I need to make sure I'm hitting that. So when it's for goal purposes like that, it's understandable. But for
the
me,
everyday person trying to reach a goal?
Absolutely not. You get to a point where you use that scale as a tool to actually eat more if you need to, or you eat less. So now it's like, if I need to maintain around here, I like how I look, I like how I feel. I try not to dip too much from that area. But if it comes to like weight loss and, you know, even putting on muscle, it's all about the foods you choose and not necessarily the weight that you're putting on or losing. The first thing I noticed when I started losing weight is I felt better. Forget the way I looked. I felt better. Absolutely. I slept better. I woke up and I need coffee immediately. I need this, I need that. And it's that right there I think people miss because they focus on the number. Yes. Or they focus on, I don't fit into this size pants or shirt or something. And I think the measurement of success is skewed wrong, especially when we talk about blood work and things like that. You can't see it, right? You know. But then when I used to get lab work, I tell you, when I went in to see you guys, so excited because I saw, hey, there's a lot more green this time than there's red. But that doesn't show physically always until later in the game.
Exactly. And that's what I always want people to understand too, is we are trying to make you healthier. Forget about the freaking scale. Mm-hmm. Like, I cannot reiterate that enough. If you can get up and have more energy in your day, if you feel better, if somebody compliments you, take it in. Mm-hmm. If your shirt is fitting better, like I always call these the non-scale gains, because forget about the scale. Where are you gaining? Are you emotionally stable now? Do you have a more positive outlook on life? Are you making better choices, therefore having better energy? Like you said, are you sleeping better? Are your clothes fitting better? Do you look better in the mirror? And when you look better in the mirror, you feel better mentally. We know there's a connection, mental with physical, right? And I just cannot reiterate enough. I'm so glad to hear you also talking about this and how you talk to your clients as well. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when we look at blood work, I have a lot of diabetic patients out there who they thought, wow, I'm diabetic, so now I can get on these medications, the Mounjaro, the semaglutide, the Ozempic, whichever name you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And they're so upset that they're not losing as fast as somebody else who actually does not have diabetes or metabolic syndrome, and they're just dropping the weight. And I cannot say enough, like, stop dwelling on that, because we are making you healthier. Your A1C has significantly improved. Your risk for heart disease is decreasing as we sit here. Like, there are so many other benefits that they are just so focused on that scale. So how do you get somebody out of that mindset? How did you overcome that mentality?
Yeah, I think it became a big thing because 10 years ago when I started, I couldn't care less what a doctor told me about my blood work because I looked a certain way.
Right.
You know, to me, I didn't care how I felt. I didn't care what the blood work was saying. I just want to look a certain way. And I think that becomes the boulder that blocks all those small weight successes.
Right.
Because you're just focused on the look because you see it every day. Mm-hmm. For me, the big thing was I'm just not going to quit. Right. And everybody says that in the beginning, but I figured if it really takes a year, fine. Let's just go for a year and see what happens. But instead of setting a goal at a year, I'm going to stop. It's at a year, I'm going to see what I do next. So it was constantly moving and moving. And I think that was a big thing that helped me. Because I've been doing this for kind of this up and down for 10 years.
Absolutely.
You know, I've been consistent now for the last 4 or so. But those first few years where I was just like everybody else. You know, There was always, I'll be online, what's the fastest way to lose weight? Or, you know, is there a pill for it? You know, what's the best workout to lose love handles? I've done it all. And I think tracking those small things, and I say small, but they're huge. We just think they're small compared to the number. And being able to monitor those, and then just overall quality. When I started to journal my experiences and I go back and read it, and in that moment, you may not think that it's really affecting you, but I realized I was getting lazy at work. My mood wasn't always there. You kind of more in this kind of depressing state, even though you're making all this progress. And to go back to watch how it changes, 20 pounds, 50 pounds. I got a compliment today. I fit in these pants. Like, to be able to go back and see, wow, this whole book is just minor wins. But then now when people see me, it's like, how did you do it? How did you do it? Like, they think it was fast.
Right.
And no, anybody who's known me for
we've
a
seen
long
the
time,
transition.
absolutely. It became a long-term goal that I had. And for me, the switch was to be healthy, to be happy, to be able to function normal, and then even function at a higher level than what I even thought was possible. And I didn't think that that had anything to do with my body. I thought it was like, oh, I'm not mentally tough, or, I'm not built this way or something like that. And I realized that my body is trying to keep up. The blood work was horrible. So there's no way that you're mentally going to be able to push past. And maybe you can for a little bit, but something's got to give at some point. And that's when I started to realize that, hey, the worst blood work that I got, especially right out of high school, fresh out of high school, my first was a 6.4.
Your A1C,
Yeah,
hemoglobin A1C, which is your 3-month blood sugar marker, if you don't know.
And 6.5 is typically where we consider diabetes to start, and pre-diabetes is above 5.7. So you were almost diabetic.
Yeah, it was bad. And for
Right
me,
out of high
that
school,
kind of
wow.
to get that news and still not care, as bad as it sounds, because I looked a certain way. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just get me to lose the weight. And when I started to notice those numbers got better and things like that, then the body started changing. You're fighting an uphill battle until you get over it. Your body's functioning the way it should, and everything's kind of in a synergistic energy within your body. Everything started moving, motivation to stay on the diet. You're not getting these cravings that you just thought were, I'm a foodie. No, your body is giving you signs, but they're not always telling you to eat. It's telling you that something is going off on the inside. You're craving sugar, craving salt, craving this. That's just who I am. No, it's not. Everybody loves junk food. Don't get me wrong. Wednesdays are my junk day.
Okay.
So I get to enjoy it, but I don't have the cravings that I do as I did before. But I allow myself to have them because I do enjoy them.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So I love hearing that you allow yourself to have a cheat day, or like I like to say is cheat meal. Like that way you don't sabotage the entire day. And you don't want to, you probably don't overdo it because you don't want to sabotage all the work you put in for that entire week from Wednesday to Wednesday, right? So do you do portion control? What's your tip on that when you do allow cheating?
So in the beginning, when I was still in the process of losing the weight, I would have cheat meal. That was it. It was a free meal. It was kind of a refeed day. You're
like
dieting.
A once a week?
Yeah, you're dieting hard. You're working out. You're going through everyday life normal. That one meal is just, it's going to refeed you mentally, physically, maybe glycogen stores that you're running out, extra fat that you're not getting throughout the week. And I would keep it to one meal, right?
Exactly.
And every day the same day. And now I would be flexible because life happens and girlfriend's birthday, anniversary, something like that. I would move it around for that. But I try to be consistent to build a habit, It was almost like a reward system. All I got to do is get to Saturday.
Yeah.
And I can have that, whatever
One
I was
meal.
craving.
Right. But you didn't do it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
No.
Right.
And because I used to do that in the past. And I realized
didn't
work. Because the next day you feel horrible. Then you don't want to go to the gym. You don't want to do this. And then you're starting to spiral.
Right.
Now when I say I have a cheat day, I'm very strict on my meals. I eat very similar throughout the day, and I track all my food. On my cheat days, I don't track it, but I still eat relatively healthy. I don't worry about the sauce I put on foods. I don't do anything. Most of it is clean foods. And, last week I had pizza. No guilt, no nothing. But I still had my other meals. I had egg whites in the morning, spinach with it. I keep it consistent. And that's one that you learn to, I think, appreciate as you start to feel better is, well, if it's going to make me feel like crap, why am I going to do it in the first place? You know? And I realized that a balance is what you need, because one time I'm so strict. I'm so perfect. Meal timing is like, I'm 5 minutes late. It bothers me. And then you swing to the other side and say, all right, well, I got one day. Let's make it count. And it's like for alcoholics who day drink, but for food, you wake up earlier so you can get as much food as you can. And you're at the last minute, 11:59, you're trying to scarf down food. And the next day you feel horrible. Right. You know, it's the same way they have the hangovers the next day.
Right.
It's the same thing when it comes to food, and you're just trying to get that fix. And then you start to realize that that's probably what's causing these health problems in the beginning, or me feeling this way in the beginning. And as you start to get more advanced and to start appreciating the hard work that you put in, but the results and how you feel, you tend to pull back almost naturally, you know? So for me, I'm strict pretty much 6 days a week. And I've also learned that one meal isn't going to destroy me.
Right.
So if my cheat day's on Wednesday, I already had it. And then Friday comes up and it's a birthday. It's a special occasion. I know going out to have that one meal, even though it's my second meal, bad meal, is not going to
destroy you.
Exactly.
But because you get back on track the next day, and you're not sabotaging yourself with that one meal because you're not doing it all day long.
Yeah. And it changes the relationship with food, because, you know, most of the times we would consider certain foods bad, certain foods good. And that's not the case for everybody. You know, if you're diabetic, obviously fruits, they think it's the greatest thing because it's healthy. It's this. And no, it's what's good for you. And there's no necessarily bad food. It's bad moderation.
Well, I think that's why no one diet fits for everybody.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. 100%.
And you've done the diets. You've probably done every single diet out there that's ever been created.
Yeah, it's bad.
And you can even say that dieting doesn't work. It's strict, I guess, lifestyle modifications. I mean, you have always worked out, I think, and you've always been somewhat athletic, right? But tell us more, like, did you just increase your workout regimen, or like when you really made a difference? Obviously you made when we say diet here, it was a lifestyle modification. You started eating cleaner. You started monitoring what you were eating. Have you always kept track of what you eat? Like, did you check your macros? Did you check your calories? What is it that you have done?
In the beginning, I didn't. I just thought carbs were bad, eat my greens, and kind of eat protein, you know, and that works for a little while until you realize that, no, you're missing out on certain things.
Exactly.
When I started to get real serious about, you know, getting out of the powerlifting mode, I put on a lot of weight for powerlifting. I was always around the 300 pounds most of my life, and then I lost it, and then I went up specifically for powerlifting up to 335 pounds. And when I said, it's not for me, going up the stairs are hard, tying my shoe became, you know, a struggle. And
let's just say you were not like a ripped 335 pounds.
No, not at all.
You were still a big guy.
Yeah. Very, very, I always said I'm strong.
Would you say that you had a belly at that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
That was one of the things that, like, you start changing your wardrobe to be more flexible and things like that.
And get bigger shirts and whatnot, right?
Yeah, you sit a certain way, you cross your arms, you hide yourself, and you do all those things. And that's the type of weight I was. Even though I worked out, it was not for anything health purpose. It was just to try to be strong. So eating Wendy's after the gym and having candies going into the gym and things like that, it was, again, completely different mindset. But when I realized, I said, you know what, I'm done with it, and I like having a goal. So I decided to compete. My stepdad competed at 61. And I said, there's no excuse.
Right.
You know, I love
if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, I loved bodybuilding in high school, and I always said, no, those guys are differently. They're genetics, like, just, no, that's not for me. When I saw him do it and I saw all the other people that were on that stage, I said, well, why can't I do it? And that was a switch. I said, I'm going to put my mind to something. You know, there was no weight goal. There was no nothing. But that's when I started to track. I started to time my meals out. I started to bring meals to work and kind of planning my day based off of that. And that structure is why now I haven't competed for the last 2 years. Similar structure. It's just a habit that I built. Now I feel comfortable weighing food. I feel comfortable packing meals. Like, driving down here, I have all my meals for the day. I have an extra meal just in case.
So I love it. I hear the words routine and structure, and that is what people do not realize. When you are caught up in this busy everyday world that we live in, and you don't meal prep, you're starving. What am I going to do? Go shove food in my face from the quickest thing I can get, right? You're not choosing healthy things. And so meal prepping is important, or planning out. If you know what you're going to eat, then you're going to kind of feel guilty if you don't eat it and you prepped it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think when you meal prep and you count your macros, it allows you to...
Let's talk about macros too.
Yeah, go ahead.
So macros are, there's 3 main macros, right? And when we say macros, it's macronutrients. There's micronutrients and macronutrients.
Yeah.
So the macronutrients consist of protein, fat, and carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And so, based on different body types, it's recommended to kind of aim for different macro goals, correct? Okay. And so you recommend tracking your macros?
Yeah,
Or is that just kind of what you have done?
I like to track the macros because it gives me more feedback than a scale would. It gives me more feedback than the mirror would ever. And that allows me to do a lot of things because it took out good food, bad foods again, and just showed me this is what's in my food. So now when I have, let's say I did forget a meal, or I dropped it, or something happened, I know that meal was supposed to have 40 grams of protein, it's supposed to have 60 carbs, and it's like 12 grams of fat.
Exactly.
When I go into a gas station, there's nothing healthy usually in there. But
Never.
I'll grab the back of a protein bar, or I'll look up, okay, this is very similar. And I'll create things on the fly that are the same thing, but it's just different options. And that was something I would only have learned from tracking in the beginning, knowing that I could be flexible. That I can go to a restaurant, every macronutrient, calorie count is online. I use my FitnessPal app, and I check everything.
Yeah, and so MyFitnessPal actually has a lot of data, and then there's one called Chronometer, which is also great. It checks macros and micronutrients as well. So, and they're both, you can do the free version of each. So it's not like you have to spend money either to do this, and it's very easy. Yes, I can even say from my own experience, it's very annoying. Yeah. I hate doing it in the beginning, but after a couple of weeks, you get so used to it, and you see results.
Yeah,
I cannot agree with you more. Even my meal prep program that I use, I love on the front. I just order my meals, yes, because by the time I get home, it's too much to cook, and I don't meal prep, but my meal prep program does it for me, and it says how many protein, fats, and carbs are in each one, and I love it, and I can just punch that right in my phone.
And you can simplify things. There's also apps that'll just tell you if something's healthy or not healthy.
Right, like the Yuka app.
Yep. Yuka is a great one.
When you're going through the grocery store, yep, exactly. But that doesn't tell you your macros, but it will tell you, like, obviously I try to eat as clean as possible as well. And I like, if I'm going to eat even a junk food like potato chips or something, I try to get it in avocado oil rather than, vegetable or canola oil, or seed oils out there, which we'll do a podcast on that sometime. But
a bit of one. So I'm sure people want to know, what's a typical day for you? What's a typical breakfast, lunch, dinner?
Well, I want to chime in. Let's talk about what was a typical day for you in the past, and then compare one to what is a typical day now.
So in the past, especially like in the beginning, there was anything in sight, and I'd probably eat enough for like all of us in this room, because I ate until I felt full, like almost gross full. And then I won't eat for a few hours. And then I'm going to have another crazy meal that, cereal in the afternoons, cereal at night was like a big one. You're young, you're playing video games, you're up to 4 or 5 in the morning. What's the fastest thing I could do without making a lot of noise? It was bad because I grew up, my dad's a type 1 diabetic, so diet sodas and stuff were staple. It felt normal. And at that point, I started drinking regular soda. There was no track or worry about anything. And that became one of the issues. But for me, I wasn't consistently eating throughout the day. I'd have a big meal in the morning. Like I said, cereal, like Pop-Tarts or Hot Pockets, like quick, simple things. And then go hours without eating. And then binge on the next meal. I used to work in restaurants in the past, and I would eat and scavenge throughout the shift. Now I would make a big meal to take home. And then again, you get online, you start playing with your friends, and then you're eating throughout the next 4 or 5 hours. And that's how I would do it. Now, not sleeping, not eating, solid spread out meals, and just pushing the sugar way more than I absolutely needed to, especially with the A1C being so high.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was very bad. And at that point, workout was like only when a friend would invite me. It's okay, I'll go to the gym. Fine. And I was like, yeah, what do you want to eat after? It was always kind of like food focused, which now it's weird because I am food focused, but it's not because I'm craving it. It's because I know what the food's going to make me feel like. I know when I'm starting to get tired and stuff like that. So
food is fuel.
Yeah.
And that's how you're treating it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. So I know if I have a longer day or stressful day or a more active day going to a theme park, things like that, I need more calories. I just know it. I know how I'm going to feel. And that came with the experience. But for the most part, I set my day up very simple because I don't want to think about it. Most days I don't track because I eat the same thing every day. So I take that whole hassle out of it. I wake up in the morning and before the gym, so I work out in the morning, I actually have a bowl of cereal. People think I'm crazy when I say it, but I always have a bowl of cereal with the Fairlife low-fat milk, and then I go to the gym.
Okay, but I am going to put a caveat out there for our patients and our listeners. You can afford to eat this bowl of cereal because you're doing a great workout. You're not just going for a walk in the neighborhood, right? And so it's very common in the bodybuilding industry and working out industry to eat a simple carbohydrate, correct? Right before your workout, because this is fuel. Once again, but if you're fueling and you're not
and not using it, you're storing.
You're storing. So this is you would be storing the wrong energy.
And that came with the experience, and I know what my blood work looks like now.
Exactly.
I think the last one that we had was like 4.8, 4.9.
It was phenomenal.
And it's saying I can handle that. My weight doesn't go up. I don't feel sluggish afterwards, things like that. And I do try to pick a healthier choice of cereal, Honey Bunches of Oats, things like that.
Okay.
That have more sugar than my typical food will, or when you go to the gym at 4:00 in the morning, the time the oatmeal takes to digest and stuff. So it comes with the experience part.
Exactly.
And that's like what I tried to tell a lot of people is it's not good or bad. People hear cereal and they're like, oh man, how? It's not good or bad, but it's
what
why
is okay
are you
for
using
you.
it? What's the timing of it? And how does it serve an importance to you? When I'm fasting throughout the night and my last meal is earlier in the night, I need some fuel to go that early. Right.
Exactly.
So it's all purpose driven.
Yes.
But when people think, oh, I can never have cereal again. No, you can once you get to that point.
Exactly.
Once your body, or you may even not want to, once you start to see, no, I don't actually need it.
I can't even tell you the last time I had cereal. And actually recently I was kind of craving it. And then when I went to go, I had to go to the store and I was going to go buy a box and I was like, do I really want that? I don't know.
Needed some time in between. Yeah.
I was like, I'll get something else.
Mm-hmm. But for the most part, the rest of the day is I have a meal when I get back, and I have 2 of the protein bagels, and I have 6 eggs, and that's breakfast. Super simple, super easy. I know it's a ton of protein. It has some carbs. It's low fat, and there's not any sugar to be found. Usually 2 to 3 hours later, I have another meal, which is usually rice, asparagus or broccoli, and some type of lean meat. I have 93 or 96 ground beef. I do turkey and I do chicken for the most part. Mm-hmm. And I kind of use the red meats for the micronutrients, but I stick to more of the healthier white meats, turkey, chicken, things like that.
Okay.
And I, again, split it out another 2-3 hours and I have something very similar. Again, I might switch up the vegetable. I may switch up the carb source to like potatoes or something. And I'm always switching up the seasonings that I use. I use low sodium seasoning on everything. And I add sauces. And I always go for low calorie sauces. So each of my meals taste different. It's pretty much the same thing, but I make them enjoyable.
Exactly. And what I'm hearing, what people don't realize, you are eating a normal, well-balanced meal. If you look at a plate, you have your protein, your vegetable, your carb. And I always have my own rule of thumb, like I eat a green with every meal, and that allows me to get my vegetable, whatever it is, right? But a lot of people don't. They try to eliminate this or eliminate that, and you don't have to. It's okay to eat a carb, but like you said, I try to eat a carb that's involved with, being grown in the ground, like a potato or rice or something like that, right? You can always do, cauliflower, squash, stuff like that too.
Yeah, I always try to do some type of whole food for most of my meals. Like I said, every once in a while when you have to change it up and things like that. But for the most part, the way that my body functions and feels is good with whole foods.
Right.
And so I eat that meal 3 times a day. Different sauces, different flavors, things like that. And I enjoy it. I really do.
Well,
when people see me eat the same thing, I was like, this is good. It processes well. I feel great after. I'm not hungry. I feel good. And it's easy to make. So it doesn't take much time.
The reason you're not hungry is you're eating enough. You aren't overstuffing yourself, and you're getting enough fiber and protein, which help sustain your hunger.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what people don't understand. When you're going and grabbing something quick at the gas station, and you're not grabbing the right thing, you're going to get hungry again quicker.
Yeah, for sure.
Depending on how food goes through you, right? So I love hearing this and also like sauces. People don't realize how bad a lot of those condiments and sauces. I mean, the amount of sugar in ketchup is insane. So I love that you can use seasonings. We have so many, you use natural herbs, like, I mean, cilantro and basil and like stuff like that. You can definitely switch up the flavor of any of your meals. You can have chicken in many, many different ways. Use a peanut sauce, a barbecue. They do make sugar-free barbecue sauces or even just like barbecue seasoning, right? I mean, there's so many different ways you can put chicken and where you're still eating the same thing, but it's different.
Yeah.
And that's what people have to explore, all of these options. And, eventually I think you reset your mind. And that's what I'm hearing. A lot of mental work has gone into this. And you talked about journaling before. Can we talk about some of the other resources you have used on your journey? I know me and you have talked about the Oura Ring before, and all 3 of us wear that. Tell us a little bit about that or any other metrics that you use.
Yeah, the big one that I like to recommend to everybody, because the Oura Ring for me is like when you start to get more advanced, you really start to get kind of nerdy, a little geeky about it.
I totally geek
really
out on it.
You want to know all the numbers.
That's true.
Like my temperature was up yesterday. Like, what did I do? And that to somebody who's experienced, it drives you forward a little bit more. But in the beginning, I would never do that because those numbers actually kind of overwhelmed me. Tracking overwhelmed me. That was like, oh man, I didn't eat that, or I get somewhere and it's not exactly weighed, and it would throw me off. So I try to eliminate that for somebody who's starting. So the Apple Watch is probably my favorite tool that there is because most people can use it as their phone. They see it as a value itself, but it tells you a lot of information that otherwise you don't have. When I start to do most of my steps and throughout the day, I see how active I am on, my off days versus the days that I'm really busy. And that's allowed me to kind of have an idea of, okay, maybe I should just get a few more steps in. I'll walk my dog for extra 10 more minutes. And then you see the calorie burn difference and you're saying, well, I didn't put too much effort, but that extra 20 minutes, that extra 15 minutes here made a big difference. That is always my go-to. It tells you to stand up, tells you, when you should take a breather. But the big thing for me is the calories that it shows. It gives you a good idea, a rough estimate of, maybe you have to adjust up or adjust down. And the steps. The steps to me have been kind of my favorite thing because it shows how active I am throughout the day. So when I'm having meetings and I'm sitting down and I notice I'm getting more tired, but I'm doing less. And I'll look at the steps. I'm like, oh, okay, that's probably why. So in between meetings, I'll go take a walk. I'll take out one of the dogs and kind of do stuff like that. And noticing that movement itself is waking me up, but it's also adding to the calorie count. So in the beginning, I would say, I didn't hit my 10,000. Like that's a good goal to try to have. Yeah. And then, I want 12,000. I want this. I want that. Now I'm doing like average anywhere from like 17 to 18,000 steps, but I'm not forcing myself to do it. It's a goal that I have. It's almost like a game. And then my dogs benefit from it. Me and my girlfriend will find a nice park to go walk around. And it's not this strenuous activity. It's actually just kind of almost making me go out and enjoy your life a little bit and watch. You'll reap benefits from it too. Absolutely. So I use it to track the sleep. I'll charge it right before I go to bed, throw it on, let me know how much I was moving. There's so many apps that you can use and find the metrics that you want to kind of create a goal for. The steps for me are still one of my favorite things because I like hitting those step goals. It shows how I was active, but finding the metrics that you want to work on. Is it sleep? Is it steps? Is it stress levels, things like that? And then dive deep into those. But I think that along with a portable scale, be the weird guy, be the weird girl that takes it places.
You're talking about a food scale.
Yeah. Don't worry about the actual scale. If you're following the plan, your scale means nothing, because if it's supposed to put you in direction down, if you follow it, it will go down. If you're supposed to put on some weight, the scale will go up if you're following the plan. But having a small portable food scale has changed everything. I went on a cruise last month and I weighed everything. And I enjoyed foods and stuff like that. I gave myself some flexibility, but I came back the same weight. I used to come back from cruises 5, 6, 7 pounds heavier.
Majority of people do.
Yeah. And that's when I realized that you can still enjoy life.
Absolutely.
It just has to be monitored in a way that you can keep a balance to it,
I was amazed. I have a food scale, and my husband wanted to make pasta one time, and this was before I was gluten-free. And so we pulled out like fettuccine, and he was like, well, just weigh out the portion. And I went off the label. I weighed it. Literally, I think I had maybe 10 linguine strands per person. I was like, imagine what people normally, I think people grab like the whole bundle or half a bundle. Like I was floored, and I was like, well, I guess we're adding a lot more vegetables and salad to this, and so I did. I was like, let's do it. Let's try it. And it actually wasn't bad, but that just goes to show, I think like pasta should be a side. It's not a dish,
not
right?
the main dish.
If you don't weigh your stuff, you have no idea how much you are overeating.
Yeah.
And then once you do it a few times, you have the idea. I'll never forget. So now I know it was like literally the size of a dime, like when I'm pinching my fingers, that I know that's what size is an actual pasta size for me, and you realize like, oh, okay, like you get to know what is 5 ounces of steak versus, 8 ounces of fish. You get to see this and you'll visualize it and you'll understand a lot faster.
Yeah. I think one of the best things for anyone listening, just starting, I've told this to, I can't even count how many clients now, without changing your diet, without doing anything, track it. See how many calories you're eating right now. I wish I would have done that in the beginning, because you would be flawed by, I don't eat much. I eat twice a day. And you count those 2 meals. Go ahead. And you're
if you
3, 4, 5,000 calories. And it's, oh man, you know what? Eating 5,000, 6,000 calories of clean food is so hard. It is the most difficult thing ever.
It cracks me up when I hear they're like, I didn't eat much. I just went to Chick-fil-A for breakfast. I'm like, one breakfast sandwich is over 1,000 calories. Yeah. And trust me, I'm not a calorie counter. I am a macro counter, right? Because I don't care. You can have 2 meals right here with the same amount of calories, and the macros are completely different. And one is wholesome and one is processed, right?
Absolutely.
And you want the wholesome version, obviously. And I wish, like they started doing putting calories next to everything on menus. I wish they put the macros.
Yeah.
Someday they're going to get to there. And I wish. But I really think a lot of it comes down to the whole mentality and relaxation, stress control. I cannot stress that enough. And I know that's something that you really work on with your clients. Can you touch on how controlling your stress and mentality that way can also affect your sleep and your weight?
Yeah, I think that's a huge one, that I think food becomes that answer to a lot of people with stress. I mean, for most people, that's like the drug of choice for relieving stress. A hard day, I'm going to go ahead and grab something on the way home.
Right. Or I went through a breakup. I'm going to eat the ice cream.
Yeah.
Like they drop a
it's
pint.
Funny because, the bad thing, breakup, you got a promotion. Now it's more junk food. So it's always just
good and bad.
Yeah. There's never a happy medium with these foods, because that's like the answer. It's, we did this, so we get food. We don't do this. Okay, let's get food. I think that along with stress is kind of triggers throughout the day, you know? So we're talking about big events, but all the small minor events, you know, you got yelled at by your boss. Okay, I'm going to go grab something from the cafe. Mm-hmm. Now you're eating a chocolate bar at 11:30 a.m. and it's just because you got stressed out.
Exactly.
You know, and it's the same way with alcohol, with anything else that kind of becomes these triggers from it. Stress is huge from it because all these cravings that you're getting that you don't, like, why am I craving this? It's like, again, your body is.
There's a relationship with cortisol.
100%. And I think being able to kind of understand how your body feels when it's stressed, writing down maybe the times, you know, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon is usually the highest stress point for most people who work. And having kind of that awareness for it, I think that alleviates a lot of the stress that some people may have, you know, going into that stress point of the day, having a protein shake or something that is going to help manage that stress throughout the day. That's a huge play to kind of alleviate some of this, even without having to do much. You know, because there's always things that you can do to bring down stress, throw on certain music, you know, breathing techniques, sitting there in silence. Journaling is huge for me. Mm-hmm. Journaling, you know, I went through so many journals, just one I have for work, one I have for personal.